Thanks very much to everybody. Thank you for continuing to be here all morning. I'm Christian Harvison now, from Chief Editor of WikiLeaks. He's going to tell you his impression of what happened in the court this morning.
Yeah.
There is now a break in the proceedings. I have to tell you that I was not able to observe what was going on inside. When I got inside this morning, I was not allowed into the main chamber. I was sent to an annex room with most of the reporters who were sitting there, not hearing a thing because the audio was constantly breaking. They were leaving the room, they were protesting, and if this is how you practice open justice, I don't have high faith in the court system here. It is absurd that journalists are not able to observe what is going on in the most important case for journalism in modern times.
Yeah.
Absolutely absurd. And the fact of the matter is, I was told inside the courtroom, the chambers here, that the court here decided to put this case in one of the smallest courtrooms they had in the building. So only a handful of individuals could observe. What is that? How on earth is that possible with all the massive interest in the case? What are they trying to hide? Why are they toning down the access to this important proceedings? It is not the first time that we observe this. This has been going on in every proceedings we've had in the Julian Assange's case. There has been obstruction for observers to get in, to observe the proceedings. Parliamentarians traveling from abroad cannot get into the courtroom. NGOs have not been able to get in to observe what is going on. I'm not even sure that Amnesty International was able to get into the courtroom to observe what was going on. I believe that Rebecca Vincent from Reporters Without Borders was able to, and she has previously said that she has, and Reporters Without Borders have been observing proceedings against journalists in countries around the world, and they have never experienced anything similar as they have experienced here in the UK court system. So what is all this about? Why is the system so obviously trying to keep the eyes away from what is going on inside here? Because of that, it is so important that all of you point a finger at the court and you tell them, we are watching you. The world is watching you.
Yeah.
You cannot hide the travesty that has been going on against Julian Assange throughout all these years. There needs to be a change. There needs to be, in the end, justice. Justice for Julian Assange.
Yeah. Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Thank you so much for coming, because it's so important to have you outside here to bear witness. Those of you who are journalists, one of your main job is to bear witness to injustice. If you cannot stop it, at least bear witness. And what you are witnessing here in the case of Julian Assange is one of the gravest injustices that we've seen in latter times. And it will mark the end of journalism if he is extradited. It will not be able to continue in the same manner as before. So what is at stake for you journalists is basically your existential platform. So you have to fight. It's not activism to fight for the right to practice journalism. And for all of you supporters that came out here today, this is about your right to know. It's not about the right for journalists to practice their job and have security. The real reason why they need security is to be able to provide you the information, the truth. It's about your right to know. That's what's at stake here today. These proceedings will continue this afternoon. They will continue tomorrow. Please stay here. Please voice your anger please tell this court how you feel about this travesty. And may I remind you that tomorrow after the proceedings, we will march to Downing Street and we will voice our opinion there. End this travesty. Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Thanks very much, Kristen. Well, I was in one of the courtrooms this morning, one of the overflow annexes to watch that trial. At one point, the court proceedings had to be stopped in the main courtroom simply because the audio feed to the annex was insufficient for the journalists and the other observers to hear what's going on. Now, that's not a question of justice. It's just a question of competence to allow observers. Justice that is blind, justice that is behind closed doors, justice which is secret is no justice at all. Now, we've seen speakers from around the world. There are people here from around the world to support Julian Assange. And it's a very great pleasure to introduce to you now Vince DiStefano from the sister organisation, the Assange Defence Campaign in the United States of America. Please give it up for Vince DiStefano.
Brothers and sisters, I am the National Organizing Director of Assange Defense in the United States, and I come to you today in shame for my country, which is persecuting a man whose only crime is sharing the truth of the war crimes, misdemeanors, and calumny of the United States government. He sits just 12 miles from here in Belmarsh Prison, but he is vastly closer to the American Gulag 4,500 miles from here in Guantanamo Bay, created by my country to sidestep the principles that we hold dear, that we loudly proclaim to the rest of the world. The presumption of innocence, the equality before the law, a prohibition on torture and inhumane treatment, all of which have been denied to Julian Assange. Now, I wish to address another individual who stands in the dock with Julian, who too will be prosecuted, who too will be denied justice. Who is that other unindicted co-conspirator? It is you. It is the people. It is your right to know that stands on trial in that courtroom. We cannot wait for the perverted British Jewish system or the perverted American government to provide us justice. Justice will only come when the voices of the people here and around the world are so loud that they can't ignore us any longer. Free Assange! Free Assange now! We will be here today. We will be here tomorrow. We will be here as long as the struggle continues until Julian Assange is free and reunited with his family. And should he choose to do so after his long ordeal, once again, inform, educate, and tell us what our governments wish to hide from us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now, as I said before, there is barely a human rights or civil liberties organisation on the globe which is not saying that this extradition should be stopped. Every single one of them realises the peril to freedom of speech and a free press because of the way that this is now being conducted. And I'm very glad now to welcome to the platform Alexis de Sueve from the International Federation of Human Rights.
Federation for Human Rights. The FIDH, it's 188 human rights organizations around the world. And we came to London today and tomorrow to support Julian Assange. Why? Because the case of Julian Assange is a human rights case. It's about our civil liberties, about our fundamental freedoms. It's of course press freedom, but more generally, freedom of expression. And without freedom of expression, we have no democracy anymore. And that's why we are all here today in front of the Royal Court of Justice to support Julian Assange. All the journalists in the world, and a lot of them are here today, but a lot are absent. I really don't understand why they're not supporting more their colleague, Julian Assange. This morning I had a live interview on the radio, and the third question of the journalist, it was a Belgian journalist, was, yes, but Julian Assange has put the life of Americans in danger, and Julian Assange, blah, 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 blah. And I answered them, why this question comes from you, because that is what the United States are defending in court. Why are you, as journalists, repeating the arguments of the CIA? That should not be your job. And so, we must all be aware that our presence here, it's for the human rights, it's for the civil liberties, it's for the freedom of expression, and that you cannot be prosecuted by exposing state crimes, crimes against humanity, war crimes, committed by states like the United States, and be prosecuted for that. The question is, if Julian Assange is extradited to the United States, who will dare to be a whistleblower? Because either you're prosecuted, either the journalist who you give the information to will be prosecuted, and even if he's in another country, he risks to be extradited to a foreign country and faces lifelong prison sentence, 175 years or even more. And so it's our democracy that's in danger. We have to protect the investigation journalism, we have to protect the whistleblowers for our democracy, for human rights, for our fundamental freedoms. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now Stella Assange is going to give you her impressions of what happened in the court this morning.
Free Julian Assange!
Okay. I just want to speak a little bit to you because it's only a handful of us inside the room that actually can follow the proceedings. So I wanted to tell you about what was going on in there. We opened and we talked about Julian's political opinions and his political motivations. And they are clear and they're unchallenged, which is to expose state criminality. And what happens when you expose state criminality? The United States has taken a politically motivated prosecution against a journalist because he exposed them committing crimes. And so what's going on inside this courtroom is to determine how the extent of the cover-up. How is this court going to deal with this case? We heard that the case was only brought after the United States said that it would do anything to prevent the International Criminal Court from examining an investigation into US activities in Afghanistan. And of course, WikiLeaks evidence in the publication that Julian's indicted over are part of that case. WikiLeaks has been used as evidence in the European Court of Human Rights and other foreign courts to expose state criminality. And the United States is abusing its legal system in order to hound and prosecute and intimidate all of you.
Yeah.
What's at stake is the ability to publish the truth and expose crimes when they're committed by states. The outcome of this hearing today will make it clear the extent of the cover-up. The only fair, I shouldn't even talk about fairness at this stage, because the country that's trying to extradite him plotted to murder him.
Yeah.
What are we even entertaining in these courts? How can any how can you even entertain this hearing knowing what we know? It's all on the public record. And yet it continues.
Yeah.
It's only a handful of us in that room, but you know what the stakes are. You understand what this is about. It's about you, it's about us, it's about the public's right to know. It's about the right to be able to speak freely without being put in prison and hounded and terrorized by the state.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for staying. Thank you all for listening. Please do stay this afternoon. Please do come back and hear what will be happening in the courts. We'll be reporting back from this stage about 4:30 this afternoon. Please do stay around. Do continue to protest. Please come back tomorrow and be ready when the court hearing finally ends tomorrow afternoon to march from here to Downing Street.